Today's video is sponsored by Fagien. Today we're taking a look at the Canon R50v and putting it up against the Sony FX30. I also want to give a special shout out to B&H Photo for not only sending out the Canon R50v to test out in today's video, but also the Sigma 18-50 in the RF mount, as I own the FX30 and I own the 18-50 for E-mount, but I wanted to test out that lens not only on the Canon R50v, but I got to test it out on the Red Komodo, which for those of you interested, it still doesn't work after all those updates. So it's really just going to work on Canon cameras, at least for right now. But again, thank you to B&H for sending out the camera and the lens. And if you're interested in anything I discuss in today's video, make sure to click the links below. Now, the Canon R50v is the cheapest interchangeable mirrorless camera in Canon's lineup that shoots professional video, hence why it's the R50v. I tested out the R50 last year. I even bought two of them over the period of a year, and I kept returning them, quite frankly, because although the stills modes were really great, for video it was lacking, where the R50v has fixed a lot of that, especially with 10-bit C-Log3 added in the camera. And the FX30 has the same sensor as the Sony ZV-e10 Mark II, which is really the main camera people are going to ask questions and compare against the R50v. So in today's video, I want to use the Sigma 18-50, which again is probably the biggest lens that people are going to use on the Canon EOS R50v, and it's one of my most used lenses on the FX30 just because of the price, the image quality, and the size of the overall lens in a 18-50 body. It also has macro, which we're not really going to test today. I have videos on the 18-50 that you could check out on the channel, but the main focus is going to be what is the difference in the image quality between the R50v and the Sony FX30 when using the same lens and in the exact same lighting conditions. Let's take a look at the footage. So we're filming on the Canon R50v, which is right here at ISO 400 on the Sigma 18-50, and on the FX30 at ISO 800 with the Sigma 18-50 as well. And I wanted to see how these cameras look like in the exact same lighting setup at the exact same time. And when I've been doing these tests, it's been hard because I've been putting one on one tripod, then putting the other one on the tripod, where I want them both at the same time at the same focal length. So here we are at 18 millimeters, and I have the FX30 right here, and then I have the Canon R50v right here. Now, these are very similar cameras, although the FX30 is obviously a lot more expensive, but it has the exact same sensor, same colors as the Sony ZV-e10 Mark II, which is really the main competitor of the Canon R50v. So that's why, image quality-wise, it's going to be the same using the FX30 or the Sony ZV-e10 Mark II. So it's a good test to see how it looks on both of these cameras. I know it's not the best lighting, but we're just going to see how this looks. Again, this is 18 millimeters. Now let's check out 50 millimeters. Okay, so this is 50 millimeters on both cameras. This is the Canon R50v at 50 millimeters, and then right here, this is the Sony FX30 at 50 millimeters. Again, we're just doing a basic image quality test just to see with the exact same lenses, no ND filter, because I don't have the same ND filter I could put on both, so it's not fair. How does this look on both cameras? Again, in average lighting, we are in the middle of the day right here. So here is the Sigma 18-50 on the Sony FX30 and the Sigma 18-50 on the Canon R50v. We are at 18 millimeters, and I have both cameras side by side so we can get the similar field of view. Now on the 18-50 on the FX30, the sensor does have a 1.5 crop of full frame, so it is going to have a slightly wider field of view. Where on the R50v, it is a 1.6 crop of full frame. I know it's a 0.1 difference, but that does make a difference to some people. So it is worth noting there's going to be a slightly larger crop in the Canon R50v. Now let's take a look at 50 millimeters and see the difference. Now here is 50 millimeters on the Sony FX30 and 50 millimeters on the Canon R50v. Now they both get a nice shallow depth of field on the 18-50. It's part of the reason why the 18-50 is pretty much the best value kit lens or general purpose lens you could buy for both of these cameras. And it's also why Canon RF is making a comeback now that we can use Sigma's contemporary lens line on the crop sensor Canon cameras. So here we are back in the studio, and I have the Canon R50v and the Sony FX30 side by side in a controlled environment. So while I have both of these cameras together, I want to talk about our sponsor Zhuan and their light, the G300. Now, this is a light that's meant for content creators, solo filmmakers, and the reason I would say it's geared more towards content creator and filmmakers is the fact that it is a super small and compact light, but extremely powerful. This light is not only a 300 watt light, but it also has a 500 watt mode, so you could pretty much use this to film outside as long as the conditions are right. This light isn't weatherproof. However, it's so small and compact. This is just the light head itself. And it's a big improvement on the G200 light that I've actually been using as my key light for live streaming for the past year, maybe year and a half. But they improved on this light where the actual mounting system right here is a lot more robust and it's a lot easier to get going a lot quicker. And of course, this light is a little bit more powerful. So I'd say this is the more professional version of their small and powerful lights just because of the improved body. With Zhuin's Molish G300, all you need is this light head, this control box, and some kind of Bowens mount modifier. You're set to go. I've been using a lot of blow-up softboxes lately. I did a whole video on them. I'll put a link in the description below. But essentially, I've been using the Zhuin lights with the blow-up softboxes even on set just to have the most portable 3-point lighting kit I could possibly have. And in certain situations where I was in rooms during the day with a lot of glass windows, a lot of light coming in, I needed a little bit more kick than the G200 could do. And that is where the G300 comes in. And I'm going to pull it up on the R50v right here so we can test the macro capabilities of this lens while we're on both cameras. So here we are, we're getting pretty close. That's pretty much where we can get to with the R50v. Now I'm going to go over to the FX30. And now that it's not trying to get my face anymore, it can get pretty close, And that's the cool part about the Sigma 18-50 on both of these cameras. It has macro capabilities, so you can get super close on detailed shots. And that's part of the reason why I did this video today, comparing the 18-50 on both the FX30 and the R50v. I think this is going to be the most used lens on the R50v just because of its versatility. It's got 18-50, which is kind of like a 24-70 full frame equivalent, but it also has macro capabilities. It's an f2.8 lens, and it is extremely small. It has been my most used lens on the Sony FX30. I bring it with me everywhere. And so I wanted to do is where everything's lit, see how much of a difference there is, because outdoors, after looking through the footage, I do like the Sony a little bit better, especially when you look at the sky. When you look at the sky in both the footage on the R50v and the Sony FX30, you just get a little bit more clear blue sky out of the FX30, and there's just a little bit more dynamic range in the Sony camera. Now, that makes sense. Sony typically touts that they have more dynamic range than Canon cameras in C-Log 3, and that's why a lot of Canon users like C-Log 2. However, we have to remember, this is a $650 camera in the R50v, where even though the FX30 is a much more expensive camera, it's the same sensor in the ZV-e10 Mark II, which is $1,000, but that camera is still more expensive than the Canon R50v. So since it has the same sensor as the FX30, you can kind of expect the exact same dynamic range situation in the ZV-e10 Mark II against the R50v. And it's unfortunate, but again, it is a $650 camera. That's going to be the biggest pro and con of the Canon R50v, is that it's a $650 camera. So you are getting a lot for $650, but the dynamic range, even compared to Canon's own R7, just isn't quite there. It's definitely better than using the R50. The R50 for video, don't even get me started. It's why I got rid of it, even though I tried to make it work twice. And I think if you also weren't putting the R50 side by side with an FX30, you wouldn't tell a lot of these differences. And I think a lot of Canon users are still gonna pick up the R50v as a secondary third camera on set because it shoots 10-bit C-Log 3. So at least it's an extra cheap camera to have and throw around. So I thought it made the most sense to compare both of these cameras together. Traditionally, I would actually use a different Sigma lens. I would use the 18-35, but as we've gone on, as great quality as the 18-35 is, and the autofocus is actually pretty decent, although it's kind of loud, it's so much bigger than the 18-50. And the 18-50, you have that extra reach from 36 to 50. So it is a little bit more versatile. And that's why I want to thank B&H for sending out not only the R50v, but the Sigma 18-50 to do these tests and compare both cameras to each other. And I think
if I wasn't able to use this lens to do the tests, I couldn't come to really what are my final thoughts on the Canon R50v, which I'll have in a video coming soon. So if you have any questions, anything I didn't go over in today's video, let me know in the comments below. And if you got knowledge and value out of today's video, please hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell to keep up to date with the latest videos on the channel. I will have my R50v video coming out soon. I do have some thoughts, but if you have any questions you want me to specifically go over in that video, let me know in the comments below as well. And I do want to thank you all for watching. My name's Jeff Fagien, and I will see you in the next video.